Hello and welcome back to Blender. It's me, Spencer, and today we're going to go over part 3, which is modifiers. I'm going to be teaching you a little bit more about how modifiers work and the use cases for them, and so on. So here we've got our traffic cone. You may remember this. It's the thing that we've been working on for the last 2 videos, and I want to make it better, but I'm not sure how. Well, a couple of ways to do that. For starters, we're going to try to make the reflective stripe that goes in the middle of that. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into edit mode, and right now my perspective is an edge select because I was working on something else in the interim period. So you have edge select, face select, and vertex select. And you can switch between the two to select different things. So like here I am selecting an edge, and if you switch back into vertex select, you can see I'm selecting 2 vertices. And here I can select a face, and you can see here I'm selecting 4 edges, 4 vertices. So that's some good tech for you, just something to keep in mind in case you're working on a project. But anyways, let's make the reflective stripe. So in order to do that, I'm going to take a selection of vertices from like around here and turn it into its own object. But you can see that like I can't really do that because unfortunately I can only select so many at the same time. Now I could go through then and basically, you know, hold shift and select more things, and that would totally work and that would be valid. You'd be valid to do that. But you'd also be pretty freaking stupid to do that, so don't. Idiot. What you should be doing instead, so let me deselect that. I can do that by just clicking off of the model and go into one of these views, numpad 1, you know, numpad 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the vertices from this point of view. That way I get half of them, but I still don't get all of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to there, and I'm going to press Alt-Z. And what Alt-Z does is it takes you into like a pseudo wireframe mode to, by the way, turn off proportional editing, trust me. It's like X-ray. You can also toggle it by going up here. So I'm going to go into X-ray mode, and I'm going to select these faces, and now I've got all of them selected. Oh my god, that's so cool. So now what I am going to do is I'm going to press Shift-D. Now Shift-D, as you can see, has duplicated this part. It's the same trick that we used with the cube, but you can do it with vertices. However, you can also see that it's following my cursor around. So please don't left click, because if you do, it's just going to do this, and that's not going to be good for you. What you should do is press Shift-D and right-click, because as you may recall, right-clicking will cancel whatever selection. Your mom will come and pick you up, take you home. You should also try not to deselect it, because if you deselect it, then all of a sudden the vertices are basically indistinguishable from the ones that you have. So what you can do to fix that is select one vertice and then press Ctrl+L, which will select all linked, and you can say, okay, so I shouldn't do that one, maybe I'll pick this one instead. Ctrl+L, good, alright, I got it. So there we go. We've got all of that. Now how do we make it a separate object from the cone? Well, you do that by pressing P, which has separate. So you can either separate the selection by your selection, you can separate it by material, which might be useful if you're like making a model, or by loose parts, which is just like which parts aren't connected. So I'm just going to separate it by selection, because now it works for me. I'm going to tab back into object mode, and all of a sudden, oh my god, I've got 2 objects? How wild is that? That's so cool. So for taxonomy's sake, you can see up here that this one is called cone and this one is called cone.001. I'm just going to go in and rename it. You can do that by double clicking on the name or by pressing F2, which is like the universal Windows rename. You can also do it just by like going up to the thing and pressing F2 and say like, okay, traffic cone. And then going over here and saying like reflective stripe. That's just a thing. It's good. So now we have 2 objects. What's next? Well, the subject of this video, the Modifier tab. So, well, for starters, let's turn off X-ray mode so you can see this stuff a little bit clearer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the reflective stripe, and I'm going to go into the Modifiers tab, which is already open from the time that I put the subsurf on. So you can play around with this. The first thing that I am going to do is give it a Solidify modifier, because the stripe it does stick out a little bit from the traffic cone, generally speaking, unless it's like literally painted or fused on, like it does stick out. So I'm going to give it the Solidify modifier. I'm going to crank that thickness. As you can see, it doesn't do much unless you like make it really high, and the reason for this is the thickness goes inside for some reason. So what happens is when you make it thick enough, it starts to clip into itself and then go outside. So like actually this like area is coming from this area and this area is coming from this area. So the way to fix that is to, by the way, turn the thickness down. You probably won't need it that big. Is to either do the thickness kind of like as a negative, so say like actually I want it to be thick starting from like, you know, -0.001, or to turn the offset into a different direction, to say I want it to be thick from this version, like, you know, and it's offset. And that's pretty good. So the offset will basically say like, okay, you want it thick, you know, from the inside, somewhere in the middle, to the outside. We're going to say the outside because that works best for us. Cool, we've got our Solidify modifier and it looks acceptable. You know, maybe I'll go, by the way, you can close the modifier, so I'm just going to close subsert. You can go in and like dial it to be even, you know, thinner. Maybe I don't want it to be like quite 1, but like 0.5 is good for me. Yeah, that's fine. This is acceptable. So now what do we do? Well, I like that it works and I like that it's like good, but I feel like it could be thinner. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to add in a smooth modifier right here after the subsurf. And now if I like zoom in real close, maybe I'll like press 1 and I'll like try to get real in there, and maybe I will go up here to view and I'll turn the clipping to be like really small, or yeah, really small, so I can get in close. By the way, this in particular is really useful if you're modeling to scale, because again, Blender has a weird relationship with scale. Now I can see that it is progressively getting smoother towards the edges, and yeah, that works for me. So it looks like it's kind of like shrink wrapped on, which is acceptable. So cool, we've got a reflective stripe of some sort, and it has some kind of thickness to it. That's great, that's wonderful, that's literally all that I've ever wanted. I remember when Santa Claus came to visit our town when I was a kid, he would be like, hey Spencer, you've been like a pretty good boy this year, you haven't done any major felonies, what do you want for Trimbus? And I would say, I just want like a traffic cone with a nice smooth outline. And usually he'd call Child Protective Services, and my parents had to explain that I was just kind of up. So next I want to add in some thickness to the cone, because as you can see the top part is still infinitesimally thin. But first I want to make sure that I'm not going to frick anything up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into orthographic mode for number 7, and I am going to select the vertices along the bottom. Why? Don't ask questions. This is my tutorial. You don't deserve to learn from me. I'm gonna go into X-ray mode and I'm going to select the vertices along the bottom. Why am I going into X-ray mode? Because I want to make a hole in the bottom of the traffic cone. Most traffic cones do have holes in them. And if I only select the vertices from like this side, I'm not gonna be able to pick them up from the bottom, right? So I'm gonna go into X-ray mode. I'm going to go into view 7 and then I'm gonna press 5. Why am I pressing 5? So that I don't go into orthographic mode, so that I can see it a lot clearer. I can get like a better picture of what the inside of this cone looks like. So I'm gonna turn on this so that I can get some perspective. And then I'm going to just go through and select all of these vertices. So take that one, take this one, take that one, take this one, and take that one. You idiots. And then I'm going to press X to delete, but I'm not going to delete yet, and I'll tell you why. If we delete these vertices, the holes are going to appear at like the next vertices. So let me demonstrate. Basically, I would just be making a huge hole and it would be too big. So I delete the vertices, all of a sudden it's like over there. I don't want that. What I am going to do is I'm going to delete the faces. So that way the hole is a lot smaller and more manageable. And then I'm going to take this and I'm just going to push it sort of into the corner a little bit. Maybe I'll like I'll like take this and I'll push it even more, and this, and I'll like push it over there, and this, and I'll push that over there, and so on, so that I can get like a nice circular opening, because I think that that would look a lot nicer from below. So something like that, something like that, something like this, and so on, and so that I get like a nice circle at the bottom. And like, oh my god, gorge, it's beautiful, it's wonderful, except for that it's not, because it actually sucks. Oh, I should stop saying that so much. But this is a tutorial. This is about teaching you, my little Spencerini. Did I tell you guys it's what you're called now? I showed the tutorial to some friends, and they were very excited about it, and they have dubbed my students Spencerini, because in Italian it means little Spencers. I think that's wonderful. You can see that this kind of sucks, because unfortunately you can see the inside of the cone from here, and we don't want that. We don't want that at all, actually, because that would be pretty bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Alt and select. And as you can see, I've got 3-button mouse turned on, so that is just moving me around. Alright, so with 3-button mouse turned off, I am going to press Alt and select some of these over here, and as you can see, what Alt Select does is it will select all of the vertices like along a line. So I've got some vertices here, and it is basically just picking up as many of those as it knows to pick up. It's still not getting all of them, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this side, and I'm just going to press Alt Select, and I'm just going to keep selecting vertices until all of them along this way are selected. And by the way, if the subdivision subsurface is making it hard for you to see stuff, you can just turn it off for your screen by pressing this, which will make it so that it is no longer enabled in real time. So cool, I've got that. It looks like I've accidentally selected some vertices along this edge though, so what I'm just going to do is I'm going to deselect those, because I do not want them involved in this. That's something you have to be a little bit conscientious of whenever you're modeling like that. So neat, I've got all of these selected. Now I am going to, first of all, press period so my cursor is nice and centered. Do the same for the ones along the bottom. So I'm going to press Shift and then Alt Select like over to this one, and that doesn't seem to be doing anything, so I'm just going to keep doing that until I've got all of them. That is all of them, right? No, 2 more over here. Cool and good. So by the way, you can see how nice it is that we don't have like a million polygons here, because otherwise, you know, this kind of manual selection would take a really long time. So now I've got these polygons all together and all selected. How are we going to join them? Well, there are a couple ways. You could press M to like merge them at the center or something like that, but that wouldn't work because, you know, you're merging them at the center. You could merge them by distance, which, you know, that might be able to help you out, but again, you get some pretty weird results from that. No, the best way to do that is to bridge them. How do you bridge them? Well, you type in bridge. It's an edge, which is one of the things you can get by pressing Ctrl+E, and you can see you get a whole bunch of options for your edges. So I'm just going to go to bridge, or again, I'm going to type in bridge because it's easier than doing that. Bridge edge loops, and hey, there you go. You've bridged your edge loops. And now we've got a nice hole in the bottom of our traffic cone. So if I turn the subdivision surface on again, you can see, hey, that looks pretty good. You can see that you've got some weird triangles here. Don't worry about those. Like, just don't. It's never gonna be a problem. Nobody's gonna look at your traffic cone from the bottom and be like, what? Are those triangles? What's wrong with you? Like, it doesn't matter. If it really bothers you, you can go in and like try to fix the topology, but it shouldn't. So neat. Now we've got that part of it fixed. How are we going to add some more thickness to the cone? Well, again, there are a couple of ways. You could always go in and go to the cone and go to modifiers and add in another solidify, which, you know, that might do it for you. I don't know. Maybe you're weird like that. Or you could do it the cool, fun way, manually. Because the thing with the Solidify modifier is that it also applies it to like the inside here, which may or may not be what you want. Because, like, here, let me just crank that Solidify modifier up, you can see it makes some pretty weird stuff happen on the inside, which may result in some other weird stuff happening. So we only want the solidify to like happen to the top part of this. Well, there are a couple of ways to do that. I'm going to show you the cool, fun way. So remember that thing I was talking, by the way, let's turn off subsurf again. Just click on this, it makes it stop. Cool, I'm going to turn off reflective stripe as well. You can do that by like clicking the eye. Before we add any thickness to the traffic cone, we need to make sure that it's in a shape that we want it to be thick. And there is one detail that I've neglected to add for a little while. So let's talk about that one. Most traffic cones have like a little thing at the top, basically. Like you go around and you're like, oh, that's a thing, that's neat. So what we're going to do is we're going to make that. How are we going to make that? Easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. I can't believe you asked me a question like that. No, I'm never going to punish you for asking a question, my Spencerini, I promise. What we're going to do is we are going to select the top. We're going to do that by selecting one vertice and then holding Alt and selecting another, which, as I told you, or might not have told you yet, I don't know, is going to select, either find the closest path to it or select the edge, depending on what it feels like. It's a little bit finicky. So cool, we've got that going. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to press E, which will extrude. Extruding, as you can see, does this. We're going to right click to put it back where it belongs, in the ground, and then I'm going to make it kind of taper slightly inwards. I'm going to do that by pressing S, by the way. And you can see that, cool, we've got kind of a top. But it goes in a little bit too like thin, to be honest. Like it's, I don't know, it's a little odd the way it does that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this edge again, like that, and I'm going to bevel it. So you bevel by having an edge selected and pressing Ctrl+B. And what that does is that will automatically kind of figure out what you want to do, which you can control with your scroll wheel. So I'm going to give it like 2 subdivisions, I think, right around here, something like that. And hey, that's pretty good. So cool, we've got this bevel going on. We've got that. It looks like it's finally in a shape that I am ready to make it thick. So in order to apply the thickness to only the cone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one vertice. I'm going to press Ctrl+L to only select the linked stuff, because again, I don't want it going into the bottom. And then I'm going to press E again. Literally the same trick. I'm just going to press E and I'm going to scale it inwards. As you can see, now it's got some thickness to it. Now it's a little bit thick. And I've still got that part selected. So I can, if I want to adjust the thickness a little bit, I can go in and out and see like, hey, is that good? Yeah, it's good. Now this will cause a bit of a problem if you're still using subdivision surface, which is that the bottom of the cone will become ever so slightly disconnected. The reason for that is subdivision surface kind of calculates the middle point between 2 vertices, and suddenly this vertice down here, it's got 2 points in between it. So the easy way to fix this, and we're only going to do the easy way because, to be honest, sometimes the easy way is the only one worth doing, is to make another loop cut and just kind of drag it down towards the base. And now all of a sudden you will not have that problem anymore. So that's pretty cool and great. We've got ourselves a nice little solidify here. We've got a nice smooth traffic cone with a hole in the bottom. You know, maybe it's a little bit lopsided, but that's okay. Again, nothing in the world is perfect. As you can see, I'm wearing glasses because my eyes aren't perfect. I'm just kidding. I'm wearing glasses because I wanted to like kind of flex that I look hot in these. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I really appreciate you going through this with me, and I will see you next time, and not a moment sooner. Bye. Why do you keep doing this? Leave. Oh my god, you're driving me absolutely mental.